Recently, there's been a ton of videos all over YouTube talking about Minecraft, and more specifically, old Minecraft, and whether or not old Minecraft is superior to the current versions we have today. Now, I'm going to come right at the gate and say that I don't really believe that old Minecraft is much or even remotely better than the modern day variants. The modern day variants have a lot more improvements over the old variants when it comes to things like new mobs, new blocks, quality of life improvements, structures, reasons to play long term, movement capabilities, and so much more. However, there's obviously a reason why so many people believe that the old version is superior, and I'm not someone who's just going to blindly attribute that feeling to nostalgia. There has to be some sort of discernment as to why people believe old Minecraft is better. And today I want to try to figure out what that reason is and why people feel like it's gone. Making a video about old Minecraft involves discussing nostalgia pretty much every single time, and it's obvious why. The game is incredibly nostalgic for the vast majority of people. Many people grew up with this game, whether that be through the Legacy Console Edition like myself, or through the beta and alpha versions. But there's a lot of reasons beyond that people feel like this game is superior in its older forms than it is in its modern forms. I think the simplicity aspect is definitely something I want to touch on. The old game, frankly, is just a little bit simpler, a little bit slower. And I think that ties into nostalgia a little bit because it reminds people of a time when things just moved a little bit slower, when things weren't as hectic, when times were a little bit more relaxed. And this is a form of relaxation to those individuals. So looking back, people look at the game and they're like, yeah, I think that the older versions were better. But once again, that's not really a gameplay element that we can look at. There's nothing really concrete there. I think something else that's pretty important to bring up is the horror or anxiety inducing aspect that Minecraft very much used to have, and to this day still has quite a bit. I think this is most clearly expressed in old beta versions and old alpha versions. I mean, one of the most clear differences between modern Minecraft and Minecraft from 2011 is that most of you weren't playing the game like this. You would have to go into your options, video settings, and then go over to render distance, and make that short. Isn't this what you remember more of? I think something like this really does a lot to induce anxiety in the audience. Minecraft wasn't a horror game, but this is a little bit concerning. The fog in the distance, not being able to see 20 feet in front of you. There's not really too many games where something like this occurs. And Minecraft was one of the first 3D games that wasn't directly a horror game to employ these elements. Take that into account, and then also take into account the mobs like creepers, and then on top of that, the cave sounds and the music discs. And this game was ripe for horror elements to be taken right out of it and become a sort of community cult classic in respect. I mean, take a look at things like Herobrine, something that was very popular in the game's early days. I mean, something like that only exists because of the horrifying sort of atmosphere that you have in this game. Walking through old versions, you never know if something's going to be appearing over your shoulder or, I don't know, maybe breaking your house a little bit. I think that feeling of discovery is something else that people feel like they have lost. I don't really think that's objectively true. I mean, obviously there is still discovery in modern Minecraft, but I think people just know where to look for community and game updates a lot more. I think something people don't really consider too often is that old Minecraft received updates pretty much all the time and very much without warning. There wasn't a trailer for Beta 1.2, or if there was, it wasn't a very popular one. Generally, the community had to rely on outside wikis or just forums to determine what was actually going on in the game. And that actually made a lot of people much more likely to, I don't know, hop in the game and try to figure something out. Add in those horrifying elements, and you've got yourself a recipe for a game that will definitely stick on your mind for a long period of time. Aside from things like horror and the atmosphere and nostalgia as well, I think one of the other major reasons why people view old Minecraft much more positively in comparison to the modern day game is because it lacks many of the features that people consider controversial. I mean, look at things like sprinting, for example, a feature that a lot of people somewhat like, but other people really dislike. Take something like hunger. The hunger system as a whole has been viewed at pretty negatively by a large portion of the player base. And it's not for no reason. Obviously, these things have issues. They have some implementation errors. Maybe some people just don't like the concept. And that's totally fine, but obviously, when you consider that version of the game, the more modern versions, and you take that in comparison to an untainted variant, and it's pretty clear why people have more positive views of the older version. I mean, combining that with the elements of atmosphere, the new terrain generation, which people somewhat like less, and you can kind of understand where a lot of these people are coming from. But that's not really my opinion. I think that new Minecraft and old Minecraft both have their, positives and negatives. If you want a more slow-paced experience, one that doesn't really have as much going on, I think old Minecraft is definitely something to take a look at, especially with a mod like Better Than Adventure, which in my opinion makes the game a lot more enjoyable. You can see me playing it right now, and it is a little bit different, and there are some like additions, for example, like this green mossy wood that you can convert into green colored wood. But aside from that, I think it's just a pretty accurate rendition of what would have happened if Mojang kept developing beta and moved away from the normal 1.8 features. I know it's kind of a weird thing to conceptualize, but I enjoy playing this quite a bit, and I think a lot of you might get a bit out of it, so if you want to check that out down below, feel free. But overall, I think the fundamental point here is that Minecraft is not really just worse in the modern day, it's just different. And a lot of people miss the old version because of nostalgia and because of the legitimate reasons that I've brought up here. And it's very hard to convince those people that the game is indeed better now. And I don't really feel like we should be, as a community, putting those people down for feeling that way. However, I also feel like there shouldn't be, the exact opposite, and people putting down modern-day players for playing the game that they enjoy. I don't really think there's much of an argument here, because at the end of the day, it's all Minecraft. Like, it's all the same game. Obviously, there are differences, and there's quite a few changes, and that's fine. That happens in a lot of games, but I don't know, I think Minecraft is one of those few games that's almost completely unrecognizable nowadays to how it was when it first came out, and I think people just miss it. They miss the simplicity. They miss how life was when they were younger. They miss how life was when they could log into Minecraft and not have to deal with a hunger bar or an XP bar. And I know that's a little bit silly, but I think that's the fundamental conclusion that I've come to. I do think, though, that the game is moving in a pretty interesting direction nowadays. I mean, people tended to view Mojang incredibly positively back in the day. There were a few people who didn't love Notch as a person, but I think overall people viewed Mojang incredibly well until the last few years when people have become fed up with things like the mob vote and modern day updates not really living up to potential. However, I think that generally those issues are more on a community that has just been through a lot. People have been around for a while. A lot of people have been playing this game for a decade, and they feel like it's never really going to be exactly what they want. And that's probably true. If you're someone who's like, I like the old versions of the game, I want them to make it more like that version, or I want them to go back, I don't think that's ever going to happen. But if you look at YouTube right now, there's a ton of content from older versions of the game. All over the place, people have been making videos talking about Beta 1.7, Better Than Adventure, Alpha version 1.2.6, tons of ARGs and horror-themed videos talking about the oldest versions of the game. And I think that's pretty cool. I think it's amazing that a game's beta or alpha state still has maintained this much cultural relevancy a decade after that stuff has passed. Almost 15 years now. Actually, over 15 years since the initial, Ruby Dung sort of form of Minecraft. And that's pretty cool, That's pretty neat that stuff is still interesting to a lot of people. So, I don't know. When you're thinking about old Minecraft, maybe just load it up. Try to play it, see if you like it. I imagine a lot of you will probably play it like I do for an hour or two and just be like, alright, this is, the same old thing I remember, but some of you might hop in and end up making a whole series out of it. And I hope you end up posting that to YouTube because, that's really where Minecraft's home is on the internet and on YouTube. I hope you enjoyed this little rant. I know it's a little bit different than my normal content. If you're a normal viewer of mine, you're probably like, what the hell has he been talking about? But I hope some of you found something interesting out of this, and I don't know. I hope Minecraft keeps getting better. I hope in a decade from now we can have this same argument and we have a whole bunch of new gens talking about, like, 1.20 was the real peak of Minecraft and everything since then has not been great. I don't know. I just feel like that would be a pretty good ending to the game. And I'm just glad that this game has been part of my life. It's done a lot for me. I'm going to quit yapping now. I've talked for more than enough about this point. I hope you enjoyed or got something out of this video. If you want to download Better Than Adventure, I'll have the Discord link down below. Thank you so much for watching this video till the end. Look to the future, fellas. I'll see you then.